September begins quietly, but it doesn't end that way. This month starts by asking you to fix what isn't working, and ends by asking you to be brave enough to do something about it. September 10th is one of the biggest turning points. A new moon in Virgo opens a new cycle around routines, work, health, organization, and the small choices that shape our everyday lives. On the very same day, Mercury enters Libra, Venus enters Scorpio, and Uranus turns retrograde in Gemini. That's a major change in atmosphere. Conversations become more relationship-focused. Love becomes deeper and more selective. And ideas, plans, and decisions that seemed exciting recently may suddenly need another look. Then, on September 22nd, the Sun enters Libra, and we reach the equinox. The focus shifts from fixing everything ourselves to understanding where balance is missing between ourselves and other people. But September has one more surprise. On September 26th, the full moon arrives in Aries, and this one asks a very different question. What do you want? Not what keeps everyone happy, not what you're supposed to want. What do you want? And just one day later, Mars enters Leo, bringing confidence, creativity, courage, and a much stronger desire to act. So September has two very different chapters. The first says, get your life in order. The second says, now be brave enough to live it. And depending on your zodiac sign, one particular area of your life may become impossible to ignore. I'll show you where your biggest opportunity is, what to do, what not to do, and what you may need to be ready for. Let's begin with Aries. Aries, September begins with a question you may have been avoiding. Is the way you're living every day actually working for you? Because this month isn't asking you to dream bigger first. It's asking you to fix the system that has to carry those dreams. The new moon in Virgo on September 10th activates your 6th house of work, routines, responsibilities, and well-being. This is your reset point. If your schedule has become chaotic, reorganize it. If you've been procrastinating on something small but important, deal with it. If work has been consuming too much of your energy, look carefully at where stronger boundaries are needed. This is an excellent time to introduce one realistic habit that you can actually maintain. Not 10 changes, one that matters. But September isn't only about getting organized. Around the same time, Mercury moves into Libra, shifting attention toward your relationships. And suddenly, conversations matter. You may need to negotiate, listen, compromise, or finally discuss something that has been sitting quietly between you and another person. Here's what not to do. Don't confuse keeping the peace with avoiding the truth. You can be diplomatic without pretending everything is fine. Then Venus moves into Scorpio, bringing a much deeper theme into your month. Trust, intimacy, shared money, emotional vulnerability. For some Aries, this may mean getting serious about a financial arrangement, debt, expense, or something you share with a partner. For others, the real question will be emotional. How much do you trust someone when you cannot control the outcome? And then we reach one of your biggest moments of September. The full moon on September 26th happens in Aries, your sin. This puts the spotlight directly on you, your needs, your identity, your body, your direction, and the difference between who you've been and who you're becoming. Something personal may reach a culmination around this full moon. You may finally make a decision you've been postponing. You may become much clearer about what you want, or you may realize that you've spent so much energy responding to other people's needs that you've stopped asking what you need. Don't make an impulsive decision simply because emotions are high, but don't dismiss what those emotions are trying to tell you either. And then, right at the end of September, Mars moves into Leo. For Aries, this is where the energy changes beautifully. Your 5th house comes alive. Creativity, romance, confidence, pleasure, passion, and the courage to put something of yourself into the world. If you've been waiting to create something, show your work, return to a passion, date again, have more fun, or take a creative idea seriously. This energy gives you momentum. So your September story has 3 chapters. First, get your everyday life under control. Then, be honest about what you need from your relationships. And finally, choose yourself without shutting everyone else out. What should you do? Simplify your routine, have the conversation, be clear about money and boundaries, and make space for something that genuinely excites you. What should you avoid? Overcommitting, reacting before you have all the information, avoiding uncomfortable conversations just to keep the peace. and making a permanent decision in one temporary emotional moment. Aries September begins with responsibility, but it ends with fire. And by the end of this month, you may remember something important. You don't have to fight every battle, but you do need to know which life you're actually fighting for. Taurus, September may remind you that life isn't only about what needs to be done. It's also about what makes you happy to be here. And this month, something you genuinely love deserves more of your attention. The new moon in Virgo on September 10th activates your 5th house. Creativity, romance, pleasure, children, passion, and the parts of yourself that come alive when you're doing something because you actually enjoy it. This can be a beautiful reset. If you've abandoned a creative project, return to it. If life has become nothing but responsibilities, make room for pleasure again. If you're dating, you may become clearer about what kind of connection you're actually looking for. And if you're already in a relationship, this can be a good time to bring more warmth, playfulness, and genuine enjoyment back into it. For some Taurus viewers, children or plans involving children may also become more important around this period. But here's what I don't want you to do. Don't turn joy into another obligation. You don't need to be productive every minute of your life. Around the same time, Uranus turns retrograde in Gemini, and for you, that brings attention to money, security, talents, and self-worth. You've already entered a longer period of reconsidering what stability actually means. During September, you may start looking differently at the way you earn money, what you spend it on, and whether your current financial choices truly support the life you want. Unexpected expenses or changing priorities are possible, so give yourself some flexibility. But don't let financial uncertainty convince you that you have no options. You may have skills or resources you've been undervaluing. Then Venus enters Scorpio, and this is important for you. Venus is your ruling planet. As Venus moves through your 7th house of committed relationships, partnerships become deeper and more emotionally significant. Surface-level connection may not satisfy you. You want honesty, loyalty, trust, and you may become much more aware of whether those things are actually present. For some Taurus viewers, a relationship could deepen. A new connection could become more serious. A business partnership may become important, or an existing relationship may require a more honest conversation. But don't test someone's loyalty without telling them what you need. And don't expect another person to read your mind. Then the sun moves into Libra, shifting your attention toward work, routines, and everyday balance. This is where September asks you to take better care of the structure around your life, not through perfection, through consistency. And then we reach the full moon in Aries on September 26th. For Taurus, this full moon happens in your 12th house. So unlike Aries, whose full moon story is outward and personal, yours is quieter. Something may be ending behind the scenes. An old fear, a private disappointment, an exhausting emotional pattern, a situation you've been carrying without talking about it, or simply the realization that you're tired, very tired. Listen to that. This isn't the full moon to prove how strong you are by pushing through everything. Rest can be productive too. Pay attention to dreams, memories, intuition, and feelings that surface around this time. Not because every dream is a prophecy, but because your mind may finally be processing something you've been too busy to feel. And throughout all of this, Jupiter in Leo continues expanding the area of home and family. For some Taurus viewers, this longer cycle can bring growth around your living situation, family life, or your sense of belonging. You may want more space, more comfort, a different home, or simply a home life that feels more like you. So your September story is not about chasing something bigger. It's about making your life feel richer. Create something. Enjoy something. Be honest in love. Review what security means to you, and give yourself permission to rest when your body and mind ask for it. What should you do? Return to something creative. Make room for romance and pleasure. Talk openly about your needs. Review your spending and financial priorities. And protect some quiet time near the full moon. What should you avoid? Spending impulsively just to feel better. Staying in a relationship dynamic simply because it's familiar. Turning every hobby into work. And ignoring exhaustion until your body forces you to stop. Taurus, you are very good at building stability. But September asks you to remember why you wanted that stability in the first place. Not just to feel safe, but to create a life you actually have time to enjoy. Gemini, September may feel like someone has pressed the pause button right in the middle of your reinvention, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, because this month isn't asking you to become someone new as quickly as possible. It's asking you to make sure the person you're becoming is actually you. The new moon in Virgo on September 10th activates your 4th house, home, family, your living situation, your roots, and the private part of your life that nobody else sees. This is one of your strongest opportunities of the month to create a fresh start at home. You may want to reorganize your space, change something about where or how you live, resolve a practical family matter, or simply create more stability in your private life. For some Geminis, a conversation involving a parent or family member could become important, but don't try to solve every family problem yourself. Support is one thing. Taking responsibility for everybody else's emotions is another. And September 10th brings another major event. Uranus turns retrograde. In Gemini, this matters because Uranus is beginning a long transformation of how you express yourself, how others see you, and how much freedom you need to feel like yourself. You may have already noticed it, a desire to change something, your appearance, your direction, your interests, the way you communicate, or even the version of yourself you've been presenting to other people. When Uranus turns retrograde, some of that revolution moves inward. Instead of asking, what should I change? Ask, why do I want to change it? You may reconsider a decision you recently made. An idea that seemed exciting may need more testing, or you may realize that you've been changing simply because you were desperate to escape something old. Don't panic if you're suddenly less certain. You're allowed to experiment, you're allowed to change your mind, and you're allowed to outgrow a version of yourself without immediately knowing who replaces it. Mercury, your ruling planet, also enters Libra around this turning point, and that brings a lighter energy into your 5th house. Creativity, flirting, romance, fun, writing, ideas, your words can become one of your greatest strengths during this part of September. If you write, speak, teach, create content, perform, or have an idea you've been afraid to share, use your voice. Then Venus moves into Scorpio, shifting attention toward your 6th house of work, routines, and everyday responsibilities. You may want better relationships at work, a more pleasant daily routine, or a healthier balance between what you give to other people and what you preserve for yourself. But be careful about quietly taking on more work simply because you're capable of doing it. Being efficient can become a trap when everyone starts assuming you'll handle everything. Then we arrive at September 26th. The full moon in Aries illuminates your 11th house. Friendships, communities, networks, long-term goals, and the future you've been imagining for yourself. Something here may reach a culmination. You could complete an important group project. A friendship may become clearer. You may realize that you've outgrown a particular social circle, or a goal you've been pursuing could suddenly feel much closer, or much less important. Pay attention to who supports the changes you're making. Not everyone who understood the old version of you will understand the next one, and that doesn't automatically make them bad people, but it may tell you something about where you're going. What should you do this month? Create more stability at home. Question your assumptions about who you're supposed to be. Use your voice creatively. Protect your time at work, and pay attention to the people who genuinely encourage your growth. What should you avoid? Making a dramatic change simply because you're bored. Taking unnecessary financial risks when you're uncertain. Overloading your schedule, and staying loyal to a future goal that no longer excites you just because you once announced it to everyone. Gemini, September may not give you a completely new identity. It may give you something more valuable. The chance to separate genuine change from change for the sake of change. You don't have to reinvent everything. Sometimes the real breakthrough is discovering which parts of yourself you never needed to change at all. Cancer, September may bring you an answer you've been waiting for, but it may arrive through a conversation, a message, a document, or one piece of information that changes what you decide to do next. The new moon in Virgo on September 10th activates your 3rd house. Communication, learning, writing, documents, short journeys, siblings, and the decisions that shape your everyday life. This is an excellent moment to begin something that requires your mind and your voice. A course, a writing project, a new way of communicating, an application, or a practical plan you've been thinking about but haven't actually started. If there is an important conversation you have been postponing, September may be the month to have it. But be precise. Virgo energy rewards clarity. Don't assume another person understands what you mean. Say it. Ask the question. Read the document carefully. And if something important isn't clear, get clarification before you agree. At the same time, Jupiter continues moving through Leo and your second house. And this is one of the bigger background stories for you. Money, income, resources, talents, and self-worth. This can be a period of expansion. You may become more aware of ways to earn more, use a talent differently, negotiate your value, or create greater financial security. But Jupiter can expand spending just as easily as income. So don't confuse feeling optimistic with having unlimited resources. If more money comes in, give it somewhere useful to go. Then Venus enters Scorpio, and the atmosphere becomes much warmer. For you, Venus moves into your 5th house, romance, creativity, pleasure, children, attraction, and the things that make life feel exciting again. This can be one of the sweetest parts of your September. If you're single, you may feel more open to attraction and connection. If you're in a relationship, intimacy and playfulness can deepen. If you're creative, this is a beautiful period to make something that actually carries emotion. And if something involving children is important in your life, that area may receive more attention too. But Cancer, don't hide what you want and then become disappointed when nobody guesses. Let yourself be seen. Then the Sun enters Libra around the equinox and turns your attention toward home, family, and emotional balance. You may begin asking yourself whether your private life actually supports everything you're trying to achieve outside it. And that question becomes especially important because of what happens next. On September 26th, the full moon in Aries lights up your 10th house. Career, reputation, achievement, responsibility, and the direction other people see your life taking. This could be one of the defining moments of your month. Something professional may culminate. A project may become visible. A decision involving work may need to be made. You may receive recognition. A responsibility could increase. Or you may simply realize that the professional direction you've been following no longer represents what you want. And this creates an important tension. Home versus ambition. Private life versus public responsibility. You don't necessarily have to choose one and abandon the other, but something may need to be Then Mars enters Leo at the end of the month, bringing much more drive into your financial life. You may become motivated to earn more, negotiate, start something profitable, or take greater control of your resources. Use that motivation. But watch impulsive spending. Mars can make you want something now. Your bank account may prefer that you wait until tomorrow. So what should you do in September? Have the important conversation. Start the application, course, writing project, or plan. Take your talents seriously. Allow yourself more creativity and pleasure, and be ready to make an honest decision about your professional direction. What should you avoid? Signing something you haven't properly read, underestimating your own value, spending simply because you're feeling optimistic, expecting people to know what you need without telling them, and sacrificing your entire private life just to prove that you're successful. Cancer. September may show you that security isn't only about having somewhere safe to return to. It's also knowing that the life you're building outside your home still belongs to you. And if a professional door opens near the end of this month, don't automatically ask whether you're ready. Ask whether it's taking you somewhere you actually want to go. Leo, September begins with money, but it ends with you becoming almost impossible to ignore. And what happens between those 2 points may change what you believe you're capable of. The new moon in Virgo on September 10th activates your 2nd house. Money, income, possessions, talents, security, and, underneath all of those things, this is a practical financial reset. Look at what is coming in, look at what is going out, and look especially carefully at where your money disappears without really improving your life. If you've been meaning to create a budget, change a financial habit, negotiate your value, or develop another source of income, start here. But there's another side to this new moon. You may begin recognizing the value of a skill you've been treating as ordinary simply because it comes naturally to you. Don't underestimate what you know how to do. Sometimes the talent we dismiss most easily is exactly the talent somebody else is willing to value. But avoid making financial decisions simply because you're feeling confident. And Leo, confidence is definitely not in short supply right now. Jupiter is moving through your sign. This is one of your major longer-term cycles of expansion. You may feel more visible, more optimistic, more willing to take up space. You may want to grow something, change something, travel, create, lead, or simply live more boldly than you have recently. But Jupiter has a shadow too. More is not automatically better. More commitments, more spending, more promises, more attention. You don't need to say yes to everything simply because doors are opening. Choose the doors that actually lead somewhere. Then Venus enters Scorpio. And for you, the energy turns inward. Your fourth house of home, family roots, and private life becomes more important. You may want to make your home more beautiful, spend more time with people you trust, repair a family relationship, or create more privacy around something personal. For some Leos, questions involving living arrangements, moving, decorating, or family responsibilities may become more significant. And emotionally, you may want something deeper than attention. You may want belonging. Don't confuse being admired with being understood. They are very different experiences. Then the Sun enters Libra around the equinox. Communication becomes increasingly important. Conversations, documents, learning, meetings, short trips, ideas. You may find yourself talking, writing, negotiating, or connecting much more. Use diplomacy, especially if you're trying to convince someone. You don't always need to be the loudest person in the room to become the person everybody listens to. Then comes September 26th. The full moon in Aries illuminates your 9th house, and suddenly, your world gets bigger. Travel, higher education, publishing, teaching, beliefs, legal or international matters, and the bigger direction of your future. Something in one of these areas may reach a culmination. You could finish a course, make a decision about travel, receive clarity about an educational or international plan, complete something involving writing or publishing, or have a realization that completely changes what you believe your next chapter should look like. This full moon is in another fire sign, so for you, it can feel energizing. You may suddenly want movement, adventure, a bigger challenge, a different horizon. But don't run towards something simply because you're bored with where you are. Ask whether you're moving toward a real opportunity or merely away from discomfort. And then, September gives Leo one final push. Mars enters your sign. This changes the atmosphere. Your drive increases. Your confidence can increase. Your desire to act becomes much stronger. And something you've been thinking about may suddenly become something you're ready to do. This is excellent energy for taking initiative, launching something, competing, creating, leading, moving your body, or finally putting yourself behind a decision. But Mars in your sign can also make you impatient, reactive, and much less tolerant of people standing in your way. So use the fire. Don't let the fire use you. What should you do this month? Get serious about money. Recognize the value of your talents. Choose opportunities carefully. Strengthen your private foundations. Think bigger about your future. And when Mars enters your sign, act on something that genuinely matters to you. What should you avoid? Overspending because you're optimistic. Promising more than you can deliver. Confusing attention with real connection. Starting unnecessary arguments. And making a dramatic decision simply because waiting feels unbearable. Leo, September begins by asking, what are you worth? But it ends with a much more interesting question. Now that you're beginning to remember your value, what are you going to do with it? Because by the end of this month, you may have considerably more fire than you had at the beginning. Give it a direction. Virgo, September gives you something you've probably been needing for a while. A reset, not because everything in your life needs to change, but because you may finally be ready to stop carrying versions of yourself that no longer fit. The month begins with the sun moving through your sign, so naturally, the spotlight is already on you. Your priorities, your body, your direction, your choices, and the way you want the next chapter of your life to look. But September 10th is where things become especially important. The new moon happens in Virgo, your sign. This is your personal new moon. And instead of making 20 intentions, I want you to choose one. One meaningful change you could actually maintain. Maybe it's the way you organize your life, the way you present yourself, a personal project, a boundary, a habit, or a decision you've been thinking about for months. Virgo loves improvement, but here's the trap. You can become so focused on fixing yourself that you forget you're allowed to begin before everything is perfect. This new moon isn't asking you to become flawless. It's asking you to become intentional. So start, even if the plan still has rough edges. And on the same day, Mercury enters Libra. Mercury is your ruling planet, so its movements matter. For you, attention shifts toward your second house. Money, income, possessions, talents, and so on. This is an excellent period to think strategically about your finances. Review what you're spending. Ask whether you're being properly compensated. Look at how you can use your skills more effectively. And if a financial conversation needs to happen, have it. But don't undervalue yourself simply because asking for more feels uncomfortable. Being reasonable doesn't mean always accepting less. Then Uranus turns retrograde in Gemini, and this activates a much bigger story around your career and public direction. Something about your professional future may already have started changing. Perhaps you're questioning where you're going. Perhaps you're considering a different role. Perhaps the career identity that once made sense no longer fits as comfortably. During the retrograde, don't panic if the answers become less obvious. You may need to reconsider what freedom actually means in your professional life. A sudden career idea doesn't necessarily need immediate action. Test it, research it, let it develop, and please, don't burn down a stable situation simply because you're temporarily frustrated. Then Venus moves into Scorpio and your third house. Your communication becomes warmer, but also deeper. Small talk may interest you less. You may want conversations that actually mean something. This can be beautiful for writing, learning, reconnecting with someone, or finally saying something you've been keeping inside. Just be careful with suspicion. Not every pause in someone's message contains a hidden meaning. Sometimes, people really are just busy. Then the sun enters Libra around the equinox, and your financial story becomes even more important. By this point, you may have a much clearer understanding of what you value, and what you're no longer willing to spend your time, money, or energy maintaining. Then comes September 26th. The full moon in Aries illuminates your 8th house, and this is where September gets deeper. Shared finances, debt, taxes, loans, investments, financial responsibilities between two people, intimacy, trust, emotional attachment, and the things we sometimes avoid because they make us feel vulnerable. Something in this area may reach a culmination. A financial arrangement could need attention. You may finally confront an expense or obligation you've been postponing. A relationship may require a deeper conversation about trust, or an emotional attachment may become much clearer. A full moon in the 8th house does not automatically mean something bad is going to happen. It means something needs to be seen clearly. And for Virgo, clarity is useful. Look at the numbers, read the agreement, ask the uncomfortable question, and separate what you know from what you're afraid might be true. What should you do this month? Choose one meaningful personal reset. Take your own skills seriously. Review your finances. Research professional changes before making them. Communicate clearly, and deal honestly with shared money or emotional boundaries near the full moon. What should you avoid? Trying to reinvent yourself overnight, waiting for perfection before you begin. Accepting less because negotiating feels uncomfortable. Making an impulsive career move. Overanalyzing someone's every word. And avoiding a financial or emotional conversation because you'd rather not know the answer. Virgo, September isn't asking you to fix everything. It's asking you to decide what actually deserves fixing. Because there is a difference between improving your life and spending your entire life believing you are the thing that needs improvement. This month, choose progress without turning yourself into a project. Libra, September begins quietly for you, but don't mistake quiet for unimportant. Because before your season begins, there may be something you need to leave behind. The new moon in Virgo on September 10th activates your 12th house. This is the private part of your chart. Rest, closure, your subconscious, old emotional patterns, and everything you've been carrying behind the scenes. So while other signs may feel ready to launch something immediately, your new moon asks for space. You may need more time alone, more sleep, less noise, or simply a chance to process everything that has happened recently. Something may also become clearer about a pattern you've repeated for much longer than you realized. Maybe you keep trying to rescue people. Maybe you avoid conflict until resentment builds. Maybe you stay in situations longer than you should because leaving feels unfair. Whatever your pattern is, notice it before you try to fix it. Your first task this month is not action, it's awareness. But September 10th brings another important change. Mercury enters Libra, your sin, and suddenly, your voice returns. Ideas become easier to express. Conversations begin moving. You may feel more confident explaining what you want, negotiating, making plans, or saying something you've been holding back. This is excellent energy for meetings, writing, applications, presentations, important conversations, and decisions involving other people. But Libra, don't become so diplomatic that nobody can tell what you actually think. There is a difference between communicating gracefully and editing yourself until your real opinion disappears. Then Venus, your ruling planet, enters Scorpio. And for you, the focus turns toward money and self-worth. This is where September asks, what do you value? And perhaps more importantly, do your choices reflect that? You may become more serious about income, spending, savings, or what you're willing to work for. You could also become much more aware of where you've been giving your time or talent too cheaply. Be careful with emotional spending. Venus in Scorpio can want something intensely, but wanting something badly doesn't automatically make it a good purchase. Then we reach September 22nd. The Sun enters Libra, your season begins, and the equinox marks a turning point. After several weeks of looking inward, the focus comes back to you. Your appearance, your direction, your confidence, your needs, your identity, and what you want from the next chapter. This can feel like coming back into the room after spending weeks thinking behind the scenes. Use it. Make yourself visible. Start something personal. Change something that no longer represents you. And don't apologize for taking up a little more space. Because just a few days later, September brings you one of your most important moments. On September 26th, the full moon in Aries illuminates your 7th house. Relationships, marriage, committed partnerships, business partners, contracts, and the people standing directly opposite you. Something in a relationship may reach a culmination. A conversation may finally happen. A partnership could become more serious. You may understand another person's intentions more clearly, or you may realize that the balance between you and someone else isn't as balanced as you thought. This doesn't automatically mean separation. A full moon can bring commitment, just as easily as closure. What matters is clarity. And for Libra, the central question becomes, how much compromise is healthy? Before compromise becomes self-abandonment. You are naturally skilled at seeing another person's perspective. But during this full moon, don't forget your own. Then Mars enters Leo near the end of September, and suddenly, your social world becomes more active. Friends, groups, communities, collaborations, future goals. You may meet new people, become more involved with a group, or feel motivated to pursue a long-term ambition. Someone in your network may even help move an idea forward. But Mars can also create competition or friction within groups. Choose collaboration over unnecessary drama. You don't need to win every social battle. What should you do this month? Rest before your season begins. Notice the patterns you keep repeating. Say what you actually mean. Review what your time and talent are worth. Make yourself more visible after the equinox. And be honest about what you need from your closest relationships. What should you avoid? Making decisions simply to keep everybody happy. Ignoring exhaustion, emotional spending, expecting someone to guess what you need, and sacrificing your identity just to preserve a relationship. Libra, September begins with you behind the scenes, but it doesn't leave you there. By the end of the month, the question is no longer, how can I make this work for everyone? It's, can this still work without losing me? Because real balance doesn't require you to disappear from one side of the scale. Scorpio, September may show you exactly who belongs in your future and who doesn't. But that's only the beginning, because by the end of this month, your attention shifts from the people around you to what you are ready to achieve. The new moon in Virgo on September 10th activates your 11th house. Friendships, networks, communities, collaborations, long-term goals, and the future you're trying to build. This is an excellent moment to become more intentional about the people you surround yourself with. You may meet someone useful through work, a group, a community, or a shared interest. A collaboration could begin. You may return to a long-term goal you've neglected, or you may suddenly realize that one of your old ambitions doesn't excite you anymore, and that's important. You don't have to keep pursuing a dream simply because the old version of you wanted it. Ask yourself, if I were choosing my future today, would I still choose this? But don't isolate yourself simply because you're disappointed with one person. One friendship ending doesn't mean every connection is unreliable. Sometimes the right people enter only after you've stopped giving all your energy to the wrong ones. Then Venus enters Scorpio, your sin, and the atmosphere changes. You may feel more magnetic, more noticeable, more interested in beauty, attraction, intimacy, and connection. Other people may respond to you differently, and you may become more aware of what you want from love. If you're single, this can make you more open to attraction. If you're already with someone, you may want greater depth and honesty. But Venus in Scorpio isn't interested in half-hearted connection. You want to know, is this real? Can I trust you? Are we actually going somewhere? Just be careful not to turn those questions into tests. Don't create a situation just to see how someone reacts. If you need reassurance, ask for it. And Venus in your sign isn't only about romance. This can also be an excellent time to refresh your appearance, reconnect with your confidence, promote something personal, or simply allow yourself to enjoy being seen. Meanwhile, Uranus turning retrograde in Gemini brings another important theme into focus: shared finances, debt, taxes, loans, investments, intimacy, trust, and financial arrangements involving another person. Something here may need reviewing. If money is shared, make sure you understand the details. If an agreement feels unclear, ask questions. And avoid taking an unnecessary financial risk simply because someone else sounds confident. Then the Sun enters Libra around the equinox. For you, this begins a quieter period. Your 12th house becomes activated. You may need more privacy, more rest, more time to think, and perhaps more distance from unnecessary noise. This may sound contradictory. Venus in Scorpio makes you more visible, while the Libra Sun asks you to withdraw, but both can be true. You don't have to be available to everyone simply because people want access to you. Protect your energy, because September isn't finished with you yet. On September 26th, the full moon in Aries illuminates your 6th house. Work, daily routines, responsibilities, habits, and well-being. Something in your everyday life may reach a breaking point or culmination. A work project could finish. Your responsibilities may change. A problem in your schedule may become impossible to ignore. Or you may finally admit that your current routine is simply asking too much from you. Don't wait until exhaustion makes the decision for you. If something needs reorganizing, reorganize it. If a responsibility can be delegated, delegate it. And if your body is asking for rest, take that seriously rather than treating it as an inconvenience. Then comes one of your biggest shifts of the month. Mars enters Leo, and for Scorpio, Mars moves into your 10th house. Career, ambition, leadership, visibility, reputation. This can dramatically increase your professional drive. You may want to compete, lead, apply, launch, ask for more responsibility, or finally make progress on a professional goal you've been quietly planning. This is powerful energy, but it can also create conflict with authority if you feel blocked. Choose your battles carefully. You don't need to prove your power by fighting everyone who challenges you. Sometimes power is knowing exactly where your energy will produce results. So what should you do this September? Reconnect with your long-term goals. Choose your circle carefully. Let yourself be visible. Review shared financial arrangements. Simplify your workload. And when Mars enters Leo, take your ambition seriously. What should you avoid? Keeping friendships purely out of history. Testing people instead of communicating. Financial arrangements you don't fully understand. Ignoring exhaustion. And turning professional competition into a personal war. Scorpio, September begins by asking you to reconsider your future. But it ends by putting your ambition back in your hands. You don't need everyone to understand where you're going. You need the right people beside you. And the courage to keep moving when the path becomes visible. By the end of September, don't just ask yourself what you want next. Ask yourself, am I finally ready to be seen going after it? Sagittarius, September may begin with your career, but it ends by reminding you that your life needs to be bigger than your responsibilities. And somewhere between those 2 points, a relationship may surprise you. The new moon in Virgo on September 10th activates your 10th house. Career, ambition, reputation, responsibility, and the direction your professional life is taking. This is one of your most useful career reset points of the month. You may want to apply for something, begin a professional project, change the way you present your work, take on a new responsibility, or create a much clearer plan for where you want to be next. But Virgo energy doesn't reward vague ambition. Don't simply say, I want something better. Define what better actually means. More money, more freedom, more responsibility, more meaningful work, a completely different direction. The clearer you are about the destination, the easier it becomes to recognize the right opportunity. And here's what not to do. Don't make a professional decision simply because you're desperate to escape your current situation. Move towards something, not just away from something. Then Uranus turns retrograde in Gemini, and this is particularly important for your relationships. Gemini is opposite Sagittarius, so partnerships have entered a longer period of change. Romantic relationships, business partnerships, contracts, and the way you connect one-to-one with other people. Someone may need more freedom. You may need more freedom. A relationship may be evolving into something different from what you originally expected. Or you may begin reconsidering what commitment actually means to you. During the retrograde, an unresolved relationship question could return. A conversation may need to be revisited. Someone from an unfinished situation could cross your mind again. Or you may simply understand an old relationship pattern differently. But Sagittarius, don't confuse unpredictability with excitement. Not every unstable connection is a great love story. Sometimes inconsistency is simply inconsistency. Around the same time, Mercury enters Libra, and your social world becomes more active. Friends, groups, networks, collaborations, ideas for the future. This is a good period to talk to people, share ideas, ask for introductions, join a community, or reconnect with someone who could help you see a possibility you hadn't considered. Then Venus enters Scorpio, and suddenly the emotional atmosphere becomes much more private. For you, Venus moves through your 12th house. This can bring feelings to the surface that you haven't completely understood yet. You may need more solitude. You may become nostalgic. You may think about someone from your past, or realize that a feeling you thought had disappeared never completely did. Don't rush to act on every emotion that returns. Some feelings come back because they need to be understood, not because they need to become part of your future again. Use this period for emotional honesty, not romantic fantasy. Then the Sun enters Libra around the equinox, placing even more emphasis on your friendships and future plans. You may start asking, who do I want beside me in the next chapter? And which dream actually deserves my energy now? Then September 26th changes the mood completely. The full moon in Aries illuminates your 5th house, and this is much more fun. Romance, creativity, passion, children, pleasure, self. Something you care about may reach a culmination. A creative project could become ready to share. Your feelings for someone may become obvious. A romantic situation could reach a decision point. Or you may simply realize that you've been treating enjoyment like something you have to postpone until all your responsibilities are finished. Sagittarius, your responsibilities will never all be finished. Make room for joy anyway. If children are an important part of your life, something involving them may also require attention around this full moon. And then comes the final shift. Mars enters Leo. For you, this activates your 9th house. Travel, higher education, teaching, publishing, international connections, beliefs, and the desire to explore something beyond the world you already know. This is fire feeding fire. Your appetite for movement can become much stronger. You may suddenly want to book the trip, start the course, publish the work, learn something difficult, teach what you know, or pursue an opportunity that takes you far outside your normal environment. Use that momentum, but don't turn enthusiasm into recklessness. Read the conditions, check the dates, understand the cost, then go. What should you do this month? Define your professional goal clearly. Reconsider what freedom and commitment mean in relationships. Use your network. Give private emotions time before acting on them. Make room for creativity and romance. And prepare to expand your world toward the end of September. What should you avoid? Quitting something without a plan. Mistaking inconsistency for chemistry. Returning to the past simply because you're nostalgic. Neglecting joy because work feels more urgent. And saying yes to an adventure before checking the practical details. Sagittarius, September begins by asking where you're going professionally. But by the end of the month, the question becomes much larger. Where are you going? As a person? Because sometimes the next chapter doesn't begin with having everything figured out. Sometimes it begins when something inside you says, I've learned everything I can from staying here. Now I need to see what happens. If I go further. Capricorn, September may present you with a choice. Stay with the plan because it's safe, or admit that your world has become too small for what you want next. The new moon in Virgo on September 10th activates your 9th house. Travel, higher education, teaching, publishing, international connections, legal matters, and the beliefs that shape the direction of your life. This is one of the best moments of the month to begin expanding your world. You may decide to study something, apply for a course, plan an important journey, develop a writing or publishing project, explore an international opportunity, or finally take a long-term idea seriously. And because this new moon is in another Earth sign, the energy works naturally with your Capricorn approach. You don't need a fantasy. You need a plan. If you want to travel, research it. If you want another qualification, investigate the requirements. If you want to publish or teach, begin building the material. Turn possibility into something practical. But don't reject an opportunity simply because it wasn't part of the original plan. Sometimes your next step appears in a form you weren't expecting. Then Mercury enters Libra. And for you, communication moves directly into your career sector. This is important. Meetings, applications, interviews, negotiations, presentations, professional conversations, and decisions involving your public direction may become much more significant. If you need to ask for something professionally, ask. If you need to present an idea, prepare it properly and present it. If you're considering a different career direction, start having the conversations that could make it real. But don't become so diplomatic with authority figures that your own position disappears. Professionalism doesn't mean silence. Then Venus enters Scorpio, and your social world becomes more valuable. Friends, professional networks, communities, collaborations, someone you know may introduce you to an opportunity, information, or person that becomes useful later. So don't underestimate networking this month. Capricorn often prefers to achieve things through competence rather than connection, but sometimes the right connection is what allows your competence to be seen. At the same time, Uranus turning retrograde in Gemini asks you to review your everyday working life, your schedule, your systems, your workload, the way technology fits into your work, and how much freedom you actually have in your daily routine. A system you've recently changed may need adjustment. A new method may not be working as efficiently as you expected, or you may realize that your schedule has become unnecessarily complicated. Don't keep a system just because you spent time creating it. If it doesn't work, change it. Then the Sun enters Libra around the equinox, and your career becomes even more visible. This is a period when other people may be paying more attention to what you're doing. Your reputation matters, your decisions matter, and the way you handle responsibility matters. Don't get dragged into unnecessary workplace politics. Let the quality of your work speak loudly. Then comes September 26th. The full moon in Aries illuminates your 4th house, and suddenly, the public story becomes personal. Home, family, living arrangements, parents, your root, and your emotional foundation. Something here may reach a culmination. You could make a decision about where you live. A family matter may require attention. A situation involving a parent could become clearer. You may complete something connected to your home, or you may realize that your professional ambitions have been taking more from your private life than you intended. This creates one of your biggest questions of September. What is success worth? If you never feel at home inside your own life, you don't need to abandon your ambition, but something may need rebalancing. And then Mars enters Leo. For Capricorn, this activates your 8th house. Shared money, debt, taxes, loans, investments, intimacy, trust, and financial obligations involving other people. This can give you enormous motivation to deal with something you've been postponing. Pay something down, organize shared finances, negotiate an arrangement, address an investment, or have an honest conversation about who is responsible for what. But be careful with financial power struggles. Don't lend, borrow, invest, or commit significant money simply because emotions are running high. Know the numbers, know the conditions, and know what you're agreeing to. The same applies emotionally. Mars in the 8th house can intensify intimacy, but also jealousy, control, or old trust issues. If something bothers you, talk about it. Don't turn silence into a test. So what should you do this September? Think beyond your current limits. Research the opportunity. Have the professional conversation. Use your network. Simplify your working systems. Protect your private life, and become very clear about shared financial responsibilities. What should you avoid? Rejecting something just because it wasn't in the plan. Keeping an inefficient routine out of stubbornness. Workplace politics. Sacrificing home for status. Financial decisions made under pressure. And trying to control another person because uncertainty makes you uncomfortable. Capricorn, you are exceptionally good at climbing, but September asks you to look up from the next step for a moment and make sure the mountain you're climbing is still the one you want to reach the top of. Because sometimes progress isn't climbing faster. Sometimes it's choosing a bigger horizon. Not just who stands beside you, their needs, their expectations. The new moon in Virgo on September 10th activates your 8th house. Debt, loans, taxes, investments, intimacy. This is one of your best opportunities this month to get something complicated under control. If you have debt, create a realistic plan. But this new moon isn't only about money, it's also about trust. Aquarius values independence, but intimacy sometimes requires letting another person see the parts of your life you can't perfectly control. That's not weakness, that's trust. At the same time, Jupiter continues moving through Leo in your 7th house. This is one of your biggest longer-term relationship stories. Partnerships can expand. You may meet more people. An existing relationship may grow. A business collaboration could become important, or another person may open a door that you couldn't have opened in quite the same way alone. If you're single, this can increase opportunities to connect. If you're already partnered, the relationship itself may enter a period of growth. But Jupiter expands whatever it touches. So don't assume that every person who enters your life is automatically the right person. More opportunity still requires discernment. Ask yourself, does this person actually make my life bigger, or simply more complicated? Then Mercury enters Libra, and this is beautiful for your mind. Travel, study, teaching, writing, publishing, international connections, and bigger ideas become increasingly important. You may want to learn something new, plan a journey, have conversations with people from completely different backgrounds, or reconsider a belief you've held for years. Stay curious. You don't have to defend an old opinion simply because you once said it confidently. Changing your mind when you learn something new isn't inconsistency, it's growth. Then Venus enters Scorpio. And for Aquarius, Venus moves to the top of your chart. Your 10th house, career, reputation, visibility, professional relationships, and how other people perceive your work. This can be a very useful professional period. People may respond more positively to you. A professional relationship may become valuable. Your work may receive more attention, or you may feel motivated to improve the way you present yourself publicly. Use diplomacy, use charm, but don't rely only on being liked. Make sure the work behind the image is strong, and avoid getting pulled into professional jealousy or power games. Then the Sun enters Libra around the equinox, expanding your attention toward the future. By this point, you may be thinking much bigger than you were at the beginning of September. And then comes September 26th, the full moon in Aries illuminates your 3rd house. Communication, messages, documents, decisions, learning, siblings, short journeys, and information. Something may finally be said. An answer may arrive. A conversation may reach a conclusion. You may complete a writing or learning project. A situation involving a sibling or your immediate environment could require attention, or one piece of information may force you to make a decision. But Aries energy moves quickly, so here's your warning. Don't answer simply because somebody wants an immediate response. You can be decisive without being careless. Read the message twice, read the document twice, and if the decision matters, make sure you're responding to facts rather than irritation. Then Mars enters Leo, and this is where your relationship story becomes much more active. Mars enters your 7th house. Partnerships suddenly have heat. This can mean passion, attraction, motivation to build something together, or finally taking action on a relationship decision. But Mars can also bring conflict. You may encounter stronger personalities, someone may challenge you, or a disagreement you've been avoiding may become impossible to ignore. Don't be afraid of disagreement. A healthy relationship can survive to people wanting different things. The danger is turning every disagreement into a competition. You don't need to win against your partner. You need to understand what the two of you are actually trying to solve. And if you're single, this can bring people with strong, confident energy into your orbit. Attraction can happen quickly. Just remember, chemistry tells you that something is happening. It doesn't tell you whether that something is sustainable. So what should you do this September? Get shared finances organized. Be honest about trust. Allow relationships to grow without idealizing people. Think bigger. Use professional connections wisely. Pay attention to important information near the full moon. What should you avoid? Financial agreements you don't fully understand. Giving someone access to your resources before trust has been earned. Assuming every new connection is destiny. Career power games. Reacting too quickly to a message. And treating your partner like an opponent when you're supposed to be on the same team. Aquarius, September may teach you something surprising. Real independence is knowing that you can stand on your own and still consciously choose who deserves to stand beside you. And this month, that choice may become much more important. Pisces, September may show you exactly where a relationship stands, not where you hope it stands, not where it used to stand, where it stands now. And that clarity could be one of the most useful things this month gives you. The new moon in Virgo on September 10th activates your 7th house. Relationships, marriage, committed partnerships, business partnerships, contracts, and the people you choose to build something with. This is a new moon, so the emphasis is on a new chapter. For some Pisces, that could mean meeting someone. For others, an existing relationship may move into a different phase. You could make an agreement, begin a collaboration, have an important conversation about commitment, or decide that a relationship needs a completely different structure if it's going to continue. But Virgo brings practicality into the picture. Feelings matter, but so do actions. Someone can tell you they care. The question is, does the way they behave support what they're saying? And Pisces, the same applies to you. Don't promise something simply because you don't want to disappoint another person. Say yes when you mean yes, and let no mean no. At the same time, Uranus turns retrograde in Gemini. For you, this activates your 4th house. Home, family, living arrangements, parents, roots, and your emotional foundation. Changes may already have started developing in this area of your life. Perhaps you've been thinking about moving. Perhaps your family dynamic is changing. Perhaps you're craving more freedom in your living situation. Or maybe your definition of home simply isn't what it used to be. As Uranus turns retrograde, some of those questions move inward. Before changing everything around you, ask, what do I actually need in order to feel at home? More space, more independence, more stability, more privacy. Don't make a disruptive change simply because you're restless. But don't keep yourself trapped in an arrangement that clearly no longer works either. Then Mercury enters Libra, and conversations become deeper. Shared money, trust, intimacy, financial responsibilities, and subjects people sometimes prefer not to discuss may need honest communication. If money is shared with a partner, talk about it. If an agreement isn't clear, clarify it. If you need a boundary, state it. Avoid hoping an uncomfortable situation will somehow resolve itself without anyone mentioning it. Then Venus enters Scorpio, and for Pisces, this can feel beautifully expansive. Your 9th house becomes activated. Travel, higher education, writing, teaching, publishing, international connections, and experiences that make your world feel larger. You may become fascinated by something new, a destination, a subject, a philosophy, a culture, or someone whose perspective is completely different from yours. Follow your curiosity. This can also be a beautiful period for travel or planning something that takes you outside your normal environment. But don't romanticize an opportunity simply because it feels exotic or exciting. Research the reality too. Then the Sun enters Libra around the equinox, and the deeper themes of trust, intimacy, and shared resources become even more important. By this point, September may have shown you quite clearly which relationships feel genuinely reciprocal, and which ones leave you carrying too much. Then comes September 26th. Money, talents, security, and you may become clearer about what you're earning, what something is costing you, or what needs to change for you to feel more financially secure. For some Pisces, this could coincide with completing a financial goal, changing a spending pattern, or finally recognizing that one of your abilities has more value than you've been giving it. But this full moon has a deeper message. Where have you been accepting less because you weren't completely convinced you deserved more? That doesn't only apply to money. It applies to your time, your energy, your work, and your relationships. Don't make an impulsive purchase or financial decision just because emotions are running high. Look at the numbers first, then decide. And September has one final shift for you. For Pisces, Mars activates your 6th house. Work, daily routines, responsibilities, habits, and the practical structure of everyday life. Suddenly, you may have much more motivation to get things done. A work project can accelerate. You may want to reorganize your schedule, become more disciplined, tackle something you've been postponing, or simply take greater control of how you use your time. Use this energy, but don't overload yourself. Mars can make you believe you should be able to do everything immediately. You don't need a perfect routine. You need one you can sustain. So what should you do this September? Be clear about what you need from relationships. Watch actions, not only words. Reconsider what home and security mean to you. Talk honestly about shared money. Explore something that expands your world. Take your talents seriously, and build a daily routine that supports the life you're trying to create. What should you avoid? Agreeing to something simply to avoid disappointing someone. Idealizing people. Making a sudden home decision purely out of restlessness. Avoiding financial conversations. Undervaluing your work. And filling every hour of your schedule just because you suddenly have more motivation. Pisces. September begins with another person standing across from you. But by the end of the month, the most important relationship may be the one you have with your own value, because love without boundaries can become exhaustion. Generosity without limits can become resentment, and compassion without self-respect can slowly make you disappear. You don't need to become less loving. You don't need to become harder. September asks for something much simpler. Give yourself the same consideration you've been giving everyone else. And that is September 2026. If there is one message to take from this month, it's this. Don't confuse slow progress with no progress. September begins with Virgo energy asking us to look at the details. What needs fixing? What needs organizing? What needs a better plan? And what are we doing every day that simply isn't working anymore? The Virgo new moon gives us a chance to reset, but keep it simple. Choose 3 intentions, and for each one, choose one practical action. Not someday, something you can actually begin. Then, as the month unfolds, relationships and communication become increasingly important. Mercury in Libra reminds us to listen before reacting. Venus in Scorpio asks for honesty, loyalty, and depth. And Uranus retrograde reminds us that not every exciting new direction needs to be rushed. Sometimes an idea needs to be tested before it becomes a decision. Then we reach the equinox, a moment of balance, a chance to look back at the last 6 months and ask, what have I built? What have I learned? And what am I still carrying that no longer belongs in the next season of my life? And finally, the full moon in Aries changes the energy. After weeks of analyzing, adjusting, negotiating, and reconsidering, Aries asks, what do you want? This is where courage matters. But courage doesn't mean acting without thinking. It means knowing when you've thought long enough. So remember 3 things this September. Organize what you can control. Communicate what needs to be said. And when the moment comes, have the courage to act. And 3 things to avoid. Don't force progress when something clearly needs more time. Don't ignore the details because you're excited about the bigger picture. And don't make yourself smaller just to keep everything around you comfortable. September doesn't need to transform your entire life. Sometimes, one corrected habit, one honest conversation, and one brave decision are enough to change the direction of the months ahead. Tell me your zodiac sign in the comments, and choose just one word for what you want more of this September. Love, money, courage, peace, change, success, or something completely different. I'll be reading your answers. Until next time, take care of yourself and keep listening to the message from the sky.